today I'm out at my smaller bee yard, the one that only has 2 hives, and I'm going to do a couple different things. First thing I'm going to do is actually check on the status of my queens, because I had some potential swarming behavior and ended up doing a split off of both hives last time I was out here, which was about 3 weeks ago. So I just want to kind of see where we are with that. Additionally, I'm going to look at removing the honey supers from the hives. Our flow is over, or at least over enough that anything else that's coming in is just going to be like minuscule. So I'm going to start the process of removing the supers. Depending on the population of the bees, I might just go ahead and pull the boxes all together, or I've got some bee escapes with me, which would require a little bit more time. Typically with a bee escape, it's about a day per box that you're removing. So I have one hive that has 2 boxes on it that I would potentially be removing, so that's 2 days. And the other one has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so potentially 5 days. It's also possible that if the bee population is small enough, I can just take my little brush here and brush them off the frames. But regardless, that's what I have to do. When we're looking for frames that are suitable for extraction, in other words, when we're looking for frames that are good enough to take the honey out and bottle, we are looking for frames that are approximately 90% capped. And that's 90% of the comb that exists on the actual foundation itself, not 90% of the frame, because sometimes frames are not completely drawn out by the bees. So we're going to see what we could do there, see what we could collect, see what we're going to leave behind, and just kind of go from there. All right, so here I am in my first hive. I forgot how many frames we actually took from this one, so they're a little bit smaller than I originally thought they would be, but good news is they do have a mated queen, and I went ahead and marked her. She's out here doing her thing. There's eggs, there's larvae, there's capped brood already. So she was, if we did this split about 3 weeks ago, she must have been right on the verge of either emerging from her cell or already emerged, and I just didn't see her, but she is doing her thing. There's a few frames of honey that we're going to take from this, and I'll show you those in a little bit, but we also have to go through this guy for both checking for honey and also a mated queen, since we did a split off of her as well. So I decided not to use smoke on these bees, mainly because we've had a week's worth of rain and all the pine straw is wet, so I don't have any fuel for my smoker. Regardless, the bees are remaining relatively calm, and this is an example of one of our frames right here. At the bottom, I'm looking at it right now, there's actually no nectar at all in these open cells, so we can consider this one fully capped on this side, and the same is true on this side as well. So as I'm inspecting my colonies, first off, let's go back around here. Both of them are in fact queen right. Found the queen over here in the yellow one, found the queen over here in the green one. Green one is laying. The yellow one, she's not laying, but she's definitely mated. She's big, doesn't want to fly. So I went ahead and marked both of them blue because that's the color for 2025. But as I'm going through, I'm realizing that both of these hives, the population is just too much for me to sit there and go through with my my comb brush, my bee brush, and brush every single frame. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to switch to an escape board, and there's different styles. This is just a triangular escape board. This side right here actually faces down in the hive, and then this side is up. So what happens is the bees, so do it like this, okay? So the bees will come down from the boxes above them, go through that hole, and then they'll navigate this little maze that you see here. Because it's a maze, even though there are a couple straight shots here and there, the bees have a lot of trouble going back up. So once they come down, they pretty much stay down. And whenever I come back in a few days, probably about 3 or 4, all of the hives, all the boxes should be good to go, or at least I would say maybe 95% empty. And I don't mind brushing those frames. So here's the final setup for our bee escapes. You can see that on both of these hives, trying to get my finger in here, We've got a wooden band right there above the second box, or the first medium, however you want to look at it. That is our bee escape. And see if I can zoom in a little bit for you. You can also see that there's a little bit of a gap underneath it. And that's because I also prefer to put a queen excluder there, just to give another obstacle for the bees whenever they are going back up. Now, the one on the left, the green one, it should be ready to pull that, to harvest that box, to pull that box in a day. Remember, it's 1 day per box. The one on the right, the yellow, is going to take us about 4 days. And you got to think about it like this. Everybody who's in those supers, at least in my case, because I've had a queen excluder above that second box, that first medium, from the bottom, however you want to look at it, everyone in there should be foragers, should be workers. So they have to leave the hive at some point in time to continue doing their job. So they will come down to go out to forage, and they'll come back, but when they come back, they are going to have an extreme difficulty going up into those top boxes. We don't want to leave these boxes on here more than that 4 days, 1 day per box, because that becomes an area that's uninhabited by the bees, which just makes it open to different types of pests. But next time you see me, we'll be coming back here to pull these boxes, and then we'll start the extraction process. All right, I'm back out here. That last part was recorded on Saturday. It's now Wednesday morning, and we have some bad weather moving in. So I'm actually pulling this earlier than I want to, but it's supposed to rain every day between this afternoon and I think, not this coming Saturday, but next Saturday. So I'll get suited up. I'm probably not going to record me pulling the boxes, just because it's going to be from the hive stand to the back of the truck, and that's it. And I need to get out of here. So next time you see me, we will be harvesting honey. So here we are in my garage for the actual extraction process. You don't need a fancy honey house or anything like that whenever you are producing a lower amount of honey like I am currently. But there are some things you need, and some things that will be very helpful whenever it comes to the actual extraction process. First is an uncapping knife. Another thing is a uncapper, an uncapping pick. I actually prefer to use the uncapping pick over the uncapping knife, just because I feel like I destroy less wax that way. But if the wax is drawn out really thick, like you're going to see on one of these frames, you want to go with a knife. There's also a heated knife. I don't have that. I try to save money any way I can, and I can still justify utilizing just a standard knife. You can get an uncapping tub as well. In my case, I just have a 5-gallon bucket. I've already used it and uncapped a few things. So I have some wax and comb inside of it. And this is just something nice to have. You don't actually have to have it. This is a bucket uncapping rest from conecapper.com. And it just fits directly on your 5-gallon bucket. And then you take a frame and set it right here in this little groove, and it gives you something just to rest the frame on. There's a few other ways of uncapping honey and extracting it that are cheaper, if I'm being honest. One way is you could just get a spatula and completely push all of the comb off of the frame. For instance, let me pull this, right? So you can see I've already taken a little bit. One, a sample for myself, but also a sample to see what percentage we're looking at whenever it comes to moisture. 18.6 is what you're looking for. This was right at 18.1, so we're good to go. But with a spatula, I can just take that and push all the comb off. The problem with it is I'm destroying all the comb, and all the hard work that the bees did, they're gonna have to do again, versus the pick or the knife is just taking that outermost layer off. And then on the commercial side, you'll see chain uncappers and things of that nature. We don't have that, so we're going to do the knife and the pick and the bucket system. From there, you need to, at least if you're going to use the knife and pick combination, you need to have an extractor of some type, which is this guy right here with the red top. Ooh, there we go. And I'll show you that in just a little bit. but that's the basics of what you need. Let's go ahead and start uncapping. So here's that first frame that I showed you. Again, we're trying to get 90% of this frame covered in white wax. Now you'll notice I have some spots on the edges where the comb just wasn't drawn all the way out. I don't include that in my figuring out the 90%. So if I take my uncapping knife to my frame, and be careful with these because they are in fact very sharp. One of the things you'll notice is I'm not really getting, I'm getting a little bit of cutting, but there's still a good bit of wax that is being missed. And I am in fact using the top and bottom rail, so this part and this part here as my guides. So once I've done my initial kind of pass, I'll come back through with a pick and just pick through all the white wax just below the surface to kind of break open the cells. This is that frame now uncapped. Missed a couple cells here and there, but that's okay. The bees can get that back. You want to do this, by the way, in either an enclosed space or on like a day like today, which it's very rainy, so the bees aren't flying. If you have like if I had my garage door open right now and it was a nice day, I would be fighting bees for my honey, basically. They would be very interested in it. From there, I have my actual radial extractor. Let's bring it over here. Mine holds 4 frames. And what I want to do is kind of balance it out as best as I can, so that whenever I actually start cranking this, it will stay balanced, won't walk on me. But I need 3 more frames, so I'm going to go ahead and uncap those, and then I'll show you how this works. We're now ready to extract. So I took off the plastic on top so you can see what happens, but when you actually spin it, you get something called centrifugal force happening. You can kind of see on the outside where honey is getting flung onto the sidewalls of the holding tank. You'll do this for a few minutes, really until you stop seeing any honey coming out of the frames. And then once you've done that, you'll actually rotate the frame, so flip it so the outside is now the inside and vice versa, so both sides of the frame can be extracted. You can do this faster than what I'm doing right now, but just for demonstration purposes, this is the speed I'm going at. Decided to go ahead and start the filtration process a little bit. You can see in here we've got some wax, some bee parts. There might even be a little bit of wood from the actual frame whenever I was opening up the cappings. So that's the whole purpose of this filter right here. It's going to catch all that, and below it we're just going to have nice clean honey. All right, our final step is to bottle the honey. You can use glass jars. I chose to use plastic bottles this year just so I can control the squeeze a little bit more and the amount that goes on whatever I'm using it with. Whenever you're filling it, you want to go roughly to this line right here. You can see on mine where the pattern ends. If it's a jar like this one, you would go to this bottom lip, and that's just to give enough room for expansion in case there's heat or cold or whatever. If you are using a bucket fill station like I am, highly recommend having a second bucket underneath just to catch any spillage. And when you are doing this, you'll open your honey gate just to allow a small amount of honey come out, just a controllable flow like this. And again, you'll fill it to that line. And as you get closer, you start closing the gate and kind of pulse it to get to the mark that you want. My caps have a safety seal on the inside of it, so I'll just go ahead and put my cap on. And then the final step is to label it. And that's it. Now you have a completely full bottle of honey ready to enjoy.